morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, yesterday was an absolutely horrible day. There's just no other way to put it. And look, I'm sick and tired. I'm going to be very honest with you. I am sick and tired. And honestly, if I didn't have FCC fines to worry about, I would be dropping the F-bomb. Because I don't know about you, but I've had it. I've really had it. When are we going to learn? When are we going to learn that Islam is incompatible with Western civilization, with American civilization, with American culture, with American values? And when are we going to stop finally allowing radical Islamists to enter our country and commit terrorist atrocity after terrorist atrocity? I want to ask people, in all honesty, all of you, when is enough enough? Yesterday, at about 10:43 a.m., an Islamic terrorist by the name of Mohammed Baylor Jalloh, Jalloh, a naturalized U.S. citizen from Sierra Leone. He was a naturalized U.S. citizen. We let him in from a third world hellhole. And this is how he pays us back. At 10:30 a.m., he walked into Old Dominion University in Virginia, in which Lieutenant Colonel Brandon Shaw, and I'm going to speak about this hero and great patriot a little bit later in the show, but he is a professor, a military science professor at Old Dominion University. He has served multiple tours of duty for our country. He was the chief ROTC instructor, and he was in the process of leading a class. Jalloh walked in and asked students, is this the class with the ROTC training? And the students said, yes, that's the class. And then he walked into the classroom, and according to numerous witnesses, shouted out, Allahu Akbar. And he began to blast away. Lieutenant Colonel Brandon Shaw was killed. He was murdered. He was shot dead. He survived, as I said, 3 tours of duty. He survived the sands of Iraq, the war of Iraq, but he couldn't survive radical Islam in his own country. Apparently two other students, by the way, both of them members of the military, were badly wounded in the attack, and one of them is in very serious condition. Now, by the grace of God, the remaining students, patriots, military men, people who are not willing to just stand there and be slaughtered, bull rushed this scumbag, this piece of you-know-what. And they subdued him. One of them had a knife, one of the students, and apparently they stabbed him to death, preventing him from killing even more people. Had they not all rushed him and subdued him, it would have been an absolute bloodbath. Now, to show you what is wrong with this country, this Jalloh came to the United States, as I said, from Sierra Leone. He then became a member of the Virginia National Guard as an engineer. But in reality, he was an ISIS plant. He infiltrated our military, used the knowledge that he had, by the way, lived very well, had a very nice home, couldn't have been treated any better, and then he left the Virginia National Guard and went on a 6-month trip to Africa, where there he met up with people associated with ISIS. And as he met with them, he became a member of ISIS. And then, not unbeknownst to him, he met an FBI informant. He had no idea this person was working for the FBI. And in those conversations with an FBI informant, he then openly told him that one of his great heroes was the Fort Hood shooter. Remember him in 2009, where another Muslim extremist in the military killed 13 service members, wounding 64 more, that he wanted to commit a mass shooting, mass terrorist atrocity in the name of Islam. That he was involved, like most Muslims, according to him, in a holy war against America and against the West. He was convicted. In fact, he pled guilty in 2017 because the guy couldn't keep his mouth shut. And so they set up a sting operation in which he went to a dealership in Northern Virginia and explicitly bought several rifles for the purpose of committing a mass atrocity a la Fort Hood. They caught him. They arrested him. He pled guilty. He was sentenced to 11 years in prison for providing material support to ISIS. Now, here's what I don't understand. Because this animal was then released in late 2024 after only serving 8 years of his sentence. Joe Biden, Joey, released him. Had he served the full 11 years, he'd still be in jail or prison. And that beautiful ROTC instructor, that great man, Brandon Shaw, would be alive today. But even worse than that, how does this guy keep his citizenship? How is he not denaturalized and deported on the freaking spot? He's an ISIS terrorist who openly brags about he wants to commit mass shootings, that's his fantasy, that's his purpose and mission in life, to kill the infidel, to kill Americans on American soil, and you guys let him out early? And then you just let him stay in the country? Okay, that was 10:30 a.m. Just shortly after noon, this time in the suburbs of Detroit, West Bloomfield Township, another naturalized U.S. citizen, this time not from Sierra Leone, but from Lebanon, took a vehicle, by the way, from Dearborn, Michigan. That's where he lived, Dearborn, Michigan, which has the largest population of the largest Muslim Arab population in the United States. He took a vehicle loaded with mortars and explosives, a rifle, and then drove his vehicle like a suicide bomber, crashing into the front doors of a Jewish synagogue and preschool in a quiet Detroit suburb. Smoke began to appear immediately. He rammed the vehicle through the doors. He then continued to drive down the corridor, if you can believe it. There were over 140 children. I'm talking literally 4, 5, 3-year-old children, as well as staff members and teachers. He got out of the vehicle and, according to some reports, began to fire. By the grace of God, they had trained security guards on the spot. They returned fire immediately. And apparently they shot him dead. They shot him dead. Apparently he fell back into his vehicle. The vehicle then caught fire. The fear was that this thing could blow and all the school children and everybody there would have been blown to smithereens. The first responders came on the scene almost within minutes, and a mass atrocity was barely averted. Now it turns out we know the motive for this. He has family members in Lebanon. Some of them were killed by Israeli airstrikes. Okay, my friends, there's no question now. The war has come home, and now Americans are being killed on American soil by Islamic jihadists, Muslim terrorists, in part of a holy war against the United States because of our war with Israel. There's no question now. And I want to ask all of you, when are we as a country going to finally stand up and open our eyes and end this this deadly illusion that's like a cancer, it's like a poison, it's killing us, to recognize Islam, radical militant Islam, fundamentalist Islam, for what it is. It is a death cult. And as I said on X, and I'm going to repeat it again, it is incompatible with Western civilization, American culture, and American values. They are not here to assimilate. In fact, what is incredible is not only do we keep allowing them in, naturalized citizen after naturalized citizen, but even when they tell us to our face that their allegiance, take this guy that shot up that ROTC classroom at Old Dominion University, he swore allegiance to ISIS. Hell, he openly said, I want to commit mass shooting, a mass atrocity like Fort Hood. I want to massacre Americans. In fact, he said, my fantasy is to do it during Ramadan, we're in the middle of Ramadan. Ramadan, from what I've read, is February 18 this year to March 19. So when he struck that ROTC classroom, he was fulfilling and implementing his dream that he had told a judge, he had told the Biden administration, he had told anybody who could listen to him. Now, why wasn't this guy, he should have been for the full 11 years in prison. Why was he released early? That I want to know. And man, oh man, you release a guy like him back into American society? Like, you're basically, what are you saying? Like, just you're begging for him to kill us. You're asking for it. And he delivered. He gave it. Now, as for what took place up in Oakland County, in West Bloomfield, which is about 20 miles northwest of Detroit, just so that you know, that area has the largest population of Jewish Americans outside of New York City. So it's one of the reasons why, again, another naturalized U.S. citizen, this time this 41-year-old from Lebanon, that's why he deliberately targeted the synagogue and the preschool. By the way, the kids were in school. Now, reports are coming out that apparently, as you know, Lebanon is being hit hard by the Israelis, southern Lebanon. because they're not just attacking Iran or bombing Iran, they're also in a war right now with Hezbollah, because Iran has now unleashed its top proxy, Hezbollah. They are firing missiles and rockets into Israel. Some are landing, by the way. Israeli citizens are being killed. Their infrastructure is being hammered. And so Israel is targeting these Hezbollah cells very aggressively, especially around Beirut. Well, apparently in one of their recent airstrikes, this madman had family members, including apparently a sibling, who was killed in one of these strikes. And so he said, I'm going to pay back the Jews. How am I going to pay back the Jews? I'm going to go and strike an innocent synagogue, and I'm going to kill 3, 4, 5-year-old Jewish kids. And so apparently he packed his car with mortars, explosives, drove the vehicle, as I said, right through the front doors of the corridor, right through the front doors of that synagogue/school, and then drove the car right down a corridor, had a rifle on him as well, started shooting. Now, had there not been security guards, we're looking at a bloodbath. We're talking dozens and dozens of dead kids. Now, by the grace of God, when the war began, this school and synagogue in particular said, we feel there's a heightened sense of fear among many of the people who attend the synagogue. It is apparently one of the largest Reform Judaism congregations in the entire United States, which, by the way, is theologically more liberal. And if anything, are probably going to be more critical of the war, or at least more critical of Israel than other branches of Judaism, but let that go. And so they beefed up security, and they put in extra security precautions, and there's a security guard that's an absolute hero. The head of the security there really put his life on the line. Apparently he's got a serious concussion. He did get hit by the car, but he'll be okay. But they took him out. Now, apparently 30 police officers were also sent to the hospital because there was so much smoke when the car got caught on fire that they suffered smoke inhalation and they had to be taken to the hospital. But they all say how this thing didn't blow sky high, like a massive IED. They have no idea. Now, remember, it's not just these two. What did we recently have in New York City? We had 2 ISIS terrorists, Islamic terrorists, whose parents, one from Afghanistan, the other from Turkey, again, naturalized citizens, hurl IEDs at anti-Islam protesters in downtown New York. Okay, a couple lines are open if you want to jump on. Let me ask you, the great audience of Kuhner Country, as we wake up again to the shocking news that took place yesterday, what do you make now? It's been a string of Islamic terrorist attacks. First, New York City, then Old Dominion University in Virginia, and by the middle of the day, it navigated north to Detroit, or the suburbs of Detroit, and a synagogue and preschool. Do you fear that there will now be even more terrorist attacks in the days and weeks to come as the war in Iran continues to go on and now in many ways escalates and intensifies? Do you fear now more retaliation from Islamic sleeper cells, terrorist sleeper cells here in America? That's number one. Number two, is it time to ban all Muslim immigration into the United States? I said it again on X. I've been saying it now for a long time. Why do we keep inviting people into our country? I'm not saying they're all terrorists. Of course, most of them are not terrorists. But the fact of the matter is, as the famous saying went, not all Muslims are terrorists, but so far, all terrorists are Muslim. Why do we keep bringing peoples from failed third world states who potentially are radicalized or could be radicalized inside our country and inside our borders? It is a recipe for national suicide. You are literally constantly putting our lives in danger, and Americans keep getting killed again and again and again. And let me ask you the ultimate question. Can Muslims peacefully coexist in Western culture, in Western civilization, or here in the United States? Because increasingly, I don't see the evidence for this. You know, as David Harsanyi, who's a well-known conservative columnist, writer, his work appears everywhere, including, by the way, magazines like National Review. He made to me, I thought, a brilliant point, which is, notice, you've never heard of terrorism or terrorists in the name of Judaism or Zionism, even for that matter, if you want to politicize it, or Catholicism or Lutheranism or Hinduism. But you always hear about terrorists in the name of Islam. Now, why are we as a society afraid to confront this very inconvenient, but, obviously overriding truth? And it's not just in the United States. In Canada now, just over the last couple of weeks, 3 synagogues have been targeted. They've been shot at by pro-Muslim jihadists because they're protesting the war in Iran. Canada has nothing to do with the war in Iran. It doesn't matter. They're targeting Jews and synagogues in Toronto. You go to Britain, you go to France, you go to Germany, I could go on, you go to Italy, you go to Denmark, you go to Sweden, Sweden, you go wherever you want to go. There's no peace. There's hostility, there's Sharia law, and there's constant calls for terrorism, jihad, holy war, and violence. Now, look, if you feel that passionately, no, really, I'm talking to Muslims now, about what's happening in the Middle East, then go and fight in the Middle East. But to me, what you don't have the right to do is to bring your hatreds, to bring your obsession with whatever, the Jews, Israel, whatever it may be, your causes back in the Muslim world, in the Middle East, don't bring those into our country. We don't want them. We don't care about them. They have nothing to do with us. And if they do, like the war with Iran, fine. You can peacefully protest. You can go on podcasts. You can write op-eds. You can write letters to the editor. You can go on social media. You can get a permit and peacefully protest. You can lobby Congress. There's a million ways in a country like the United States, a free society, that you can express your disapproval and opposition to a certain policy of the United States government. But what you don't freaking do is go to an ROTC classroom and start shooting it up and killing innocent people, shouting Allahu Akbar. Or you don't take a car loaded up with explosives, Allah, 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 and then you ram it into a preschool, hoping to massacre as many 4-year-old Jewish kids as possible. It's sick, it's barbaric, it's primitive, it's medieval. We don't want it here. Do you understand? You're not enriching us with this. Diversity is our strength. No, it isn't. Now, I'm going to bring up the most inconvenient truth. Most of these phony conservatives don't have the guts to say it. You'll never hear this on Fox News. You won't even hear this on Newsmax. Okay? You won't hear it from most of these so-called podcasters. But I'm telling you, if I'm not here to speak the truth, honestly, what's the point of me being behind this microphone? Countries that have no Muslim migration or immigration have no terrorism, period. Countries that bring in Muslims and have Muslim migration or immigration have terrorism. It's just a fact. Now, it could be 5% of the population, 7%, 10%. It doesn't matter. If I said to you, here is a bag of M&M peanuts. You know how much I love M&Ms. I swore off them for Lent. That's one of the things I do for Lent. I swear off sweets. M&Ms is right at the top of the list, but let that go. Okay? I fantasize about it every night. I can't wait for Easter Day, but let that go. If I gave you a bag of 100 delicious M&M peanuts, okay? The yellow bag. And I said, it's delicious. I mean, it's going to blow you, knock your socks off. 90 of them, great. 10 of them, sorry, they're laced with poison. Would you buy the bag? Would you open the bag? Would you start eating from the bag? No. If you were sane, you'd take the bag and dispose it in the garbage or whatever. Why are we doing this to our country? Now, this is not our first rodeo. This keeps happening over and over and over and over again. What these terrorist attacks show, and remember, in New York City, Mamdani is siding with Iran. Mamdani is siding with those that are chanting that Iran should unleash its missiles against the United States and Israel. So they've captured the mayor's office. What this shows is that we have a fifth column inside the United States. It's no accident this synagogue attacker came from Dearborn. The war now comes home. And my question now to you is this. What do we do? Is it time to end all Muslim immigration into the United States? And most importantly, do you fear that more Islamic terrorist attacks are to come in the coming days and in the coming weeks as the war with Iran goes on and on? 617-266-6868. Victor in Georgetown. Thanks for holding, Victor, and welcome.
Tuna man, how many times have we heard this story? Right? Terrorist kills Americans. This terrorist that was convicted of being a terrorist, sentenced to 11 years instead of 111 years, gets out after 8 years and sets up shop to go do his damage again. Now, the point that I want to make is that he, to this day, to his dying day, he was on, parole. I forget what the term is the BOP uses, but he's monitored at least. Yeah,
supervised release. Yeah, he was on 5 years supervised release.
Yeah, exactly. So they're supposed to keep an eye on this guy. Now, here's what I do know. They probably have a coffee shop in the Senate chambers and a coffee shop in the representatives' chambers. They should take these terrorists that get out of prison and make them the coffee maker for them in Congress, right? How long would that last, Jeff? That would last for the next until a bill could be put together and get passed by unanimous vote, and they would say, no, any terrorist has to be kept out of D.C. In other words, they are only interested in their own self-interest. Now, why do I know that? Because I listened to Jeff Kuhner. Jeff Kuhner says, if I'm not here to tell the truth, why am I here? Well, here's the truth, America. The Communist Party changed its name to the Democrat Socialist Party. And why did they do that? Camouflage. They do not want to be standing out as communists. So they use the same technique that Castro used. He did not announce being a communist until he took over Cuba. So these people are running the Democrat Party. Americans don't even know that. These communists running the Democrat Party will do anything to overthrow this government. Terrorist is just one of the tools in their toolbox. And by the way, speaking of tools, congratulations, Jeff. Your burner commercial could not have been more timely than the one you ran this morning. Anyone walking out of their house right now without arming their wife, their kids, adult kids, and themselves with a non-lethal weapon so that, God forbid, we are in a war now, and the war is here. The war has always been here, but they can protect themselves. They get from 400. I'm a decorated combat Marine. You send a projectile at someone at 400 feet per second, you have a chance of surviving. In America, you got to grow up. You got to put your big boy pants on. You are the last brigade to save this country. There is no one else is going to do it. You're going to have to do it. You have to inform your friends. You got to listen to shows like this. And I'm going to end with this comment, Jeff. Your show is a great show. That commercial that you just did with President Trump is a fantastic commercial. You sound professorial. The president sounds presidential, and it is a terrific message. But you also run another commercial that you sound like the court jester, and you make the president uncomfortable by that homosexual innuendo, I love you, but in a non-sexual way. It diminishes you, and it diminishes the president. The first one is 100 times better, and I wish I could listen to it all the time rather than the second one that I described. And I don't know why, Jeff, but sometimes if you're going to be invited to the halls of power in America, you can't take cheap shots at Fox. You can't take cheap shots at Bondi and people that are at least trying to fight these Democrat communists. We have enough enemy here without taking shots at our own people. Love your show, Jeff. And I'm sorry for the critique, but
no, that's fine. I appreciate it, Victor. I always appreciate constructive criticism. Victor, thank you very, very much for that call. Look, Victor, I understand where you're coming from, and obviously I respect your point of view, and I know it's coming from a good place. But I go back to what I said. I'm here to speak the truth as I see it. And if I'm not happy with Pam Bondi, if it costs me, having access to the halls of power, well, so be it. If it means I'm not going to get on Fox, I'm not selling my soul. I'm not going to censor myself or curtail myself. Look, I will tell you this. I'm just being brutally honest with all of you. It has cost me dearly in terms professionally. If I would just toe the corporate line, I'd be a multi-millionaire. And look, I've turned down, just recently, I turned down a big television contract because they wanted me to clip my editorial independence. And I'm sorry. I have to look at myself in the mirror. I have to look at my children in the face, my wife, and frankly, you, this audience. So I will never say something to you that I don't believe, because my paymasters are telling me, hey, Kuhner, man, be a good company man, and now toe the line. So I'm not that way. I can't be that way. But Victor, honestly, I appreciate everything what you're saying, because I know it's coming from a good place. 617-266-6868, but I don't want to get sidetracked. This is not about me, believe me. This is about you. This is about our country. Now, look, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm not trying to fearmonger. Look, do I think the chances of a terrorist attack in Boston again are likely? No. So I'm not trying to scare people, okay? But look, we're in a war with Iran. It is what it is. I'm just stating facts. Take it, leave it, it's up to you. The supreme leader was killed. His son has been installed. Okay, Moshtaba Khamenei. he is even more radical and even more extreme than his old man. The leadership has gotten even more radical in Iran, if you can believe it. They are now calling openly for a holy war against the West, especially against America. Now, that's not just some line. What they're saying is, sleeper cells, rise up. It's time to be activated. Go. Strike a blow against the great Satan. Obviously, if you can hit Israel, great. But if you can hit the great Satan, especially if you could bring the war to the homeland, to spill American blood on American soil, that's for them the greatest of all martyrs will be if they can kill us here. So what I'm trying to tell you is, what happened in New York City was not an accident or a fluke or a coincidence. What happened in Michigan yesterday at the synagogue, it's not an accident or a fluke. And what happened at Old Dominion University is not an accident or a fluke. Now, look, you've got New York City, you've got Norfolk, Virginia, and you've got, Oakland County, West Bloomfield, Detroit, just outside of Detroit in Michigan. So it could happen anywhere. We have to be vigilant. Victor is not 100, but 1,000% correct. As citizens, you have to be on the lookout. You have to have situational awareness. You have to know what's going on. Because they would love to do in Boston another Boston Marathon bombing. In fact, if you remember the story when we covered it, those two punks up in New York, the two ISIS jihadists, the 19 and the 18-year-old, openly, again, like this guy who shot up the ROTC classroom, pledged allegiance to ISIS. And then they said, yeah, we wanted to do another Boston Marathon bombing, except we wanted many more killed. Because only, for them, only 3 were killed at the marathon bombing. They said, no, we want dozens. We want hundreds dead. We want America to bleed. So now, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to stand here and sugarcoat it. With Mayor Michelle Wu? With that clown, that woke clown of a governor, Maura Healey? Of course Boston is a soft target. I'm just stating the fact. You've got radical imams preaching holy war, jihad, and terrorism from the freaking pulpit. New York City under Mamdani is a massive soft target. Chicago under Brandon Johnson, when a big Muslim population there too, it's a very soft target. Dearborn, where one of the terrorists yesterday, the one who rammed his vehicle loaded with explosives into that synagogue, now we find out this guy came in on an immigration visa under Obama and then got naturalized under Obama. He lives in Dearborn, Michigan. Well, the FBI should be crawling in Dearborn right now, putting a lot of these mosques and radical groups under surveillance. Los Angeles, huge soft target. So what I'm saying is, look, we can't be naive. Yes, you're watching television, you see all these bombs dropping in Iran, or now they're, the Iranians are lashing out. They're hitting Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain, Iraq. They're trying to broaden the war. Israel is now pounding Hezbollah in Lebanon. Missiles and cluster munitions are flying into Israel. So we're thinking, oh, it's 6,000 miles away. It's not going to affect us. It's here now. It's here. So you have to be vigilant. Mayor Wu does not have your back. Mamdani doesn't have your back. Ilhan Omar doesn't have your back. I'm just telling you, these idiots, you can have radical Islamic terrorists right under their nose. They don't care. They have flooded our country, not just with illegals, but with millions of Muslim migrants in the middle of a war with Islam over the last 25 years. And then they deliberately resettled them all across the country. So we have to be the eyes and ears to protect each other. Because believe me, politicians, these woke, cowardly, politically correct politicians, they don't have our back. They've got their back, but they don't have our back. We are the only ones who have each other's back. 617. And the key is keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes open and see reality as it is, not some liberal fantasy. 617-266-6868. Ron in Cambridge. Thanks for holding, Ron, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. God bless you for the work you're doing. Jeff, I totally agree with halting Islamic immigration. We have no clue as to what these people are coming in. Of course, if you set up a rule that says Islamic immigration is banned, then of course, the liberal heads will explode, and then you'll get the lower courts issuing injunctions and such. I have an even better idea. Let's talk about the failure to assimilate. And this goes right across the entire board with the Hispanic immigration and all the rest of it, and Islamic immigration. If you have failed to assimilate because you're receiving government funds and you've failed to assimilate, then you have to go. You have to be sent back because you failed in your American citizenship mission. And while we're on the subject, let's talk about Dearborn and what happened. The Democrat ideals. You hear Chuck Schumer and the rest of them talking about Democrat ideals. Well, here are the Democrat ideals: lying, stealing, cheating, fomenting racial division and hatred, and murder. And it's not only the titular heads of the Democrat Party that are guilty of this, and in fact, many of those are guilty of high treason, but it's also the people that vote for this. And I guarantee you, in Dearborn, Michigan, half that Jewish population up there voted Democrat. And, you know, haven't they gotten what they voted for? Say you.
Well, that's the thing. They have to wake up. Everybody has to wake up. You know, and, you know, you're right. Look, West Bloomfield, that area that got hit, it's about 30% Jewish. It's quite diverse, but a lot of them tend to be quite liberal. And I'm sure many of them voted for the Democrats. They voted for Biden's open border, as an example. They voted for Obama. Well, they're the ones who let all these Muslims into our country. And now you're paying the price. So I think there has to be a point where people have to wake up and realize that the party you back, the policies you vote for, are literally getting you killed. And they're and they're putting a threat to you and your family and your community. So unless you have a death wish, you better start voting differently. But to me, look, this is the bigger, you're completely right. Please don't get me wrong. You're completely right. But look, this is to me the bigger issue. There's something wrong. I'm sorry, I have to say it. Let's take this guy from Sierra Leone, okay? Jalloh is his last name, okay? Mohammed Baylor Jalloh, Jalloh. You come from Sierra Leone. You become a naturalized American. You then decide to leave the National Guard, the Army National Guard, because he was training as an engineer, and you decide to join ISIS. And as you join ISIS, and by the way, he's giving them donations, he wants to fight for them, he wants to give them weapons, he's bragging to what he doesn't know is an undercover FBI informant. And the guy won't stop talking about how he loves Fort Hood and what they did at Fort Hood and how they killed 13 service members and wounded, 60 plus. and that he wants to do something during Ramadan, and that he wants to kill as many Americans as possible, that is his mission, to die for Allah and to get his 72 virgins. And he's convicted. In fact, he pleads guilty in court. I pledged allegiance to ISIS. Yes. I bought rifles and weapons to commit mass murder and mass shootings, a terrorist attack here in the homeland, here in Virginia. Yes. Now, how does this guy only get 11 years? Okay, that to me is the first question. How is he released only after serving 8 years in prison? But holy mackerel, you just let him back in to society? You release him from prison? You don't denaturalize him? We're not going to strip his citizenship? We're not going to deport him back to Sierra Leone? There's something wrong. Like, I'm sorry, there's something wrong. There's a lack of respect for human life, a lack of respect for the safety and security of Americans. It would be like you have a serial killer, and you will let the serial killer out, and you let him into your own home. And then what? We're supposed to be shocked when he massacres members of your family? You let him in. And what's scary above all of this is there is no outrage among Democrats or the left. In fact, I'm not kidding. It's the exact opposite. They're trying to blame gun laws for what happened yesterday. I swear to you, the Republican Party, Tucker Carlson, they're saying, oh, this is anti-Semitism. Look at Tucker Carlson. What? This is the line from CNN and MS Now and the media. In other words, don't see Islam. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. And by the way, just so that you know, I want everybody to understand this. Democrats come back to power, they're reopening the border. So another 20, 30 million are going to come in. I mean, it's over. We're done. That's suicide. That's a death wish. There's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you. So that's what we need to confront. Why do we have this suicidal death wish impulse? I mean, he's an ISIS terrorist. You serve your full sentence. And then the moment this loser comes out, strip him of his citizenship because he's naturalized. Hello, he's a freaking terrorist who plotted the mass murder of Americans. And then you send him freaking back. I mean, this is like saying the sky is blue. And I'm being denounced as a racist and an Islamophobe for saying this. That's the problem. Now, I'm telling you, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. There's going to be another terrorist attack. Because no matter how good our FBI is, no matter how good and by the way, they're defunding Homeland Security. So now we've basically blinded ourselves, or at least one eye is blinded, because DHS is going with no money. So normally DHS would also be, looking at possible domestic terror cells. So you can't catch every single one of them. Not when you've let in this many. So it's like somehow, somewhere in the United States, we know this is going to happen. It's going to happen either today or tomorrow or this weekend or early, but there's going to be another one and another one. Okay, let me just say this before I go back to the phone lines, because it needs to be said. We have had, since the war with Iran began, whatever your feelings about the war, okay, again, I'm just going to be very objective, very factual. We have had 4 Islamic terrorist attacks on American soil. 4 Muslim terrorists. Austin, 3 people were killed. 14 wounded. The Austin shooter, a naturalized citizen. We had what happened yesterday at Old Dominion University. Naturalized citizen from Sierra Leone. We had the attack, the suicide bombing attack at the Michigan synagogue. That was a naturalized citizen from Lebanon. The New York City bombers, those two ISIS kids, 19, 18 years old, who were hurling and tossing those IEDs. They were the children of naturalized citizens. One from Turkey, the other from Afghanistan. Do you see a pattern? We are bringing people into our country. No, let me speak clearly. We are bringing Muslim migrants into our country that are radicalized before they come in or become radicalized once they come in. Now, we don't need this. We don't need this. Islam is the problem. I'm sorry, or whatever. Something within Islam is the problem. And it's time now that we put a moratorium, a ban on all Muslim migration, period, full stop. At a bare minimum, you put a ban on immigration from these Islamist hotspots all around the world. Because what you're importing now is violence, terror, and jihad. And Americans are literally getting killed. Hell, we're getting massacred. 617-266-6868 is the number. Now, very quickly, I just want to read this text. It's from 603, and you can text the Kuhner Man, 70470. Jeff, as you might be aware, at the beginning of this week, it was revealed that U.S. intelligence services intercepted what they called an encrypted, quote-unquote, go signal originating in Iran to activate what are considered Iranian sleeper cells here in the United States. To add to that threat here in the homeland, ever since the war on terror started, which was 25 years ago after 9/11, our own government has shipped in millions of Muslim refugees and dispersed them throughout the United States. Within those populations, there are undoubtedly many Islamic sympathizers that can act as lone wolves, which we have now seen just in the past week and a half. First, in Austin, Texas, with that shooter from Senegal. Those two young men in New York City. And now these two Islamic attacks just yesterday. Going forward, we need to be anticipating the potential of these attacks and remain highly vigilant as we go about our days, stay situationally aware, recognize what locations can be considered soft targets for mass casualties, and remain armed at all times if you can. This isn't about being paranoid. This is about being prepared. Excellent. 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 And let me just say this. Those ROTC students, cadets, at that classroom yesterday in Old Dominion University are heroes. Because they were the ones. It wasn't campus police. With all due respect to law enforcement, they just didn't have the time to respond. So when that ISIS terrorist came in shouting Allahu Akbar and gunned down that military instructor and shot two students, he would have massacred that entire classroom. Had the other students not bum rushed the guy, subdued him, and one of them had a knife, one of the students had a knife, and just stuck it right into him. Good. Good. In other words, They didn't wait to be helped. They took action, and they saved themselves and God knows how many other lives. 617-266-6868. Betsy in Michigan. Thanks for holding, Betsy, and welcome.
Good morning. First, I want to say we spoke a year and a half ago when I was in Croatia on the highway. And so we have a history there, Jeff.
Yes,
but,
I remember that call, Betsy. Yes, I remember it very well.
Well, thank you. I love the country, beautiful country. So I just was at the scene of Temple Israel. Yesterday I worked the story on site. I want you to know, this guy who drove into the temple, he made it in really far to the nursery for these children. And thank God he was taken out by one of the security guards, but then his car blew up and no child died. But 2 hours after the attack, we were watching in this freezing weather. Right now I'm in a blizzard. But the parents bringing the children out without coats, having to walk over half a mile to their cars with these children who have just been attacked. I will say for the press, we all decided not to interview the...
Betsy, please hang on. I'm up against a hard break. Okay, let's go right back to Betsy in Michigan. She is actually there in Oakland County in West Bloomfield, where a naturalized U.S. citizen from Lebanon, 41 years old, lived in Dearborn, which is about 20 miles away, roughly, took a vehicle laden with explosives and rammed it right through the front doors of a synagogue and a preschool. Apparently managed to drive it through the corridor for quite a bit. Betsy says made it all the way to the nursing area. So the little medical center that they had before he was finally stopped by an armed security guard. She said it's very cold up there. And even in the freezing cold, the parents had to come pick up their children. They had no jackets. Basically, they didn't have proper winter clothing on, and they had to walk half a mile to put them in their cars or buses so they could, escort them out of that synagogue. Betsy, please pick up where you left off.
That us as a scrum of reporters decided not to interview the parents and the children because that would be unethical, which I was really impressed. Because we're all network people, and my job was to go out and talk to parents, and I couldn't do it. This is a crisis. This is a horror show that we have here, and there's going to be more. I feel bad for the synagogues here who have to have armed guards and police on Saturdays. There are police officers at every entrance. This is only going to get worse.
Betsy, have you learned anything about the terrorist, the attacker? Obviously, he's dead, but his name is Ayman Mohammed Ghazali, apparently 41 years old. This is what we're hearing. He is a naturalized citizen, as I said, from Lebanon. He lives in Dearborn. Apparently, he's 41 years old. According now to media reports, he entered the United States in 2011 under Obama on an immigrant visa as the spouse of a U.S. citizen. He was then naturalized as an American, as a U.S. citizen in 2016 during the Obama administration. Do we know anything else about him? What I'm reading is apparently the FBI believes his motive was that he was so enraged by the Israeli strikes on southern Lebanon, where he's from, Beirut, and apparently it killed several of his family members, including a sibling, that he decided to lash out by killing as many Jews and Jewish children as possible. Are you hearing the same thing? And is there anything else you can add?
Exactly the same thing. And this synagogue is the largest Reformed Jewish synagogue in the United States. It is a huge complex. And this area, I think I heard you say before, it's very Jewish here. I'm sitting in front of a Jewish bagel store waiting to get my bagels right now, but it's very Jewish, and it has just destroyed this community. But they're going to come back, is what they say. But I want to go back to the humanity of this crisis, to see those parents hugging their children, and even police were holding children and bringing them out. That's the humanity. They're children. They were babies, and he was trying to kill them. How can you fathom the mind of someone who will go kill random children just because he's angry? There is a serious problem in this country, and I did speak with one of the rabbis, and he agreed. The same thing is, what are we going to do to stop this? I called you earlier because I was in Minneapolis for those riots, and I've got PTSD from that. What is going on in this country? The hate is so intense. Sorry, I'm getting emotional, but anyway.
No, Betsy, you're on fire. Betsy, Dearborn. He lived in Dearborn. Obviously, we know there are radical Islamic cells in Dearborn. There's no question. The mayor is very sympathetic to Hamas. He's very sympathetic to Hezbollah. They want to impose Sharia law in Dearborn. They've made it very clear that they want all Jews and Christians out. They want to basically make it a Muslim-only area. Are we going to start to see even more terrorism coming from Dearborn? Are the FBI going to start penetrating those mosques? Are we going to see more surveillance? Do you fear that Dearborn now may be ground zero in more of these Islamic terrorist attacks to come in the days and weeks as this war drags on?
The largest population of Middle Easterners outside of the Middle East. The street signs are all in Arabic. The restaurants are all halal. Even McDonald's advertises that it's halal. We had 2 sleeper cells here at 9/11 who never were able to get off the ground. So of course this is going to happen. And there's another town that was Polish called Hamtramck. That's all Muslim now, and we have call of prayer. So we are a hotbed, and you walk on tenterhooks around here because you have your Chaldeans who escaped Lebanon, the Christians, and then you have your Muslims who are radicalized in the mosques. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is a huge problem, and I'm not Islamophobic, whatever that means. I just care about this country and not having innocent children and people killed for a stupid belief.
Betsy, thank you very much for that call. Very well said. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I'm just curious, what do you make now of what happened yesterday? Do you believe now that the war has come home? And what do we do? What do we do? And do you fear that now more Islamic terrorist attacks are to come? Do you feel safe? Or do you feel that where you live could now be a potential target? 617-266-6868 is the number. Jim in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Jim, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff.
Hi,
Jeff.
Jim.
What's going on? Hi. So to me, this goes back to what I keep saying. I've been saying this for decades. This is the escalation ladder. We've been in endless Middle Eastern wars. We got to the point where, we got into the 12-day war. We got out of that one. The points were made. And ironically, it was Iran that was alerting us, that, hey, we're going to shoot a missile. We don't want to hit your bases, because they didn't really want to escalate. Now, again, I'm not defending Iran. I'm really not. I think their government's completely crap. But it's Iran. I don't really, again, I'm American. I'm just saying, where I stand on that. So anyways, we bombed the nuclear facilities, thought that was the end of it. Now, escalation led. Now we went to Iran, started a war there. First day, we blew up a school with kids. I mean, what do people think that's going to do? We're going up and up this ladder. We send no boots in the ground. It's probably going to happen. Why? because we are having attacks here. It's completely predictable that this would happen. Obviously not justified. In my opinion, killing is never justified. It just isn't. But that's what happens. So we have that. So the next step would be, well, we may have like another 9/11. I'm not trying to put fear out there. We might have something smaller, not as in the same scope or size. But of course, something like that could happen, or other attacks. And then what happens? You get the boots on the ground. You get potential of a draft, and then you get desperate. What happens? You get desperate. You got nuclear bombs out there. I mean, again, and you have other countries now that are getting involved. This is just a ladder we keep climbing up. The goalposts are being moved every day. And we're like, oh, I wonder why we got attacked. Now, of course, it's not justified, but if we didn't go to war, if we stayed out of these conflicts, which we...
Jim, I'm up against... Jim, can you hang on? I'm up against the break. I want you to finish your thought. Hang on. Jim is saying now this is blowback. Okay, let's go right back to Jim in New Hampshire. Jim says, obviously, I'm not defending what they did yesterday. It's horrible. It's atrocious. However, it's part of the escalation of war that there is blowback. We attacked Iran. We're bombing them along with Israel. The war is now expanding. It's going into Lebanon. It's dragging in the Persian Gulf nations. Now the Strait of Hormuz has been completely blocked by the Iranians. Now there's a fight to see if we can get the oil flowing again through the Strait of Hormuz. You now have gas prices soaring. Oil is now $100 a barrel. The Ayatollahs are saying they're going to make it go up to $200 a barrel and trigger a global recession and punish the United States economically. And they've called for a holy war. And now you have terrorist atrocities on American soil. It's blowback. This is what happens in a war. And how much further do we want to go down this path before we're not able to walk it back? Jim, did I sum up your position accurately?
You did, Jeff. And my fear is it is going to be really difficult to walk it back because at this point, I think that there's a lot involved. Politically, I believe this is I've always been saying this is a deep state dream. This is a globalist dream. This is a change of the world order. This is beautiful for China. They're loving this. This is great for Russia. It lets them stomp on in Ukraine. I don't know where it's going to lead. But again, if you're a historian of war, if you see the writing on the wall, it's not a good place. So, de-escalation, however that may be, would be the best way to get off of this ladder. But yeah, again, this isn't a defense of anything that happens. It's just like when Russia went into Ukraine. This is a guy who wrote a great book. It's called Provoked. It's not justified. But you're provoking things. When you're pushing NATO borders on Russia, well, they're going to get, something might happen. You can't keep escalating and provoking and not expect things to happen. And, again, and we're with a country that will probably do more, and it will be rah-rah, sis, boom, bar, and then the boots on ground draft. Let's try a tactical nuke and then see what happens after that. And that's the big question mark. And, again, I've been seeing this for a long time, and this is a dream for a lot of people in very high positions in government, well beyond Trump. Because I don't even think he realized, I think he was thinking this would be a quick in and out like Venezuela. But I think we had that with the 12-day war, and I think we had that with the bombing of the nuclear sites. And I think that would have been, that's our win. Let's negotiate. Let's get this done. Let's move on to this country and focus on, helping our own country. So.
Jim, let me ask you, where do you think this goes from here? Do you fear, by the grace of God, those explosives did not blow up, in Michigan at that synagogue, so no children were murdered, they weren't butchered. I feel very bad for that ROTC instructor. It's heartbreaking, but it could have been much worse had those students not acted and, subdued that, ISIS terrorist and stabbed him and terminated him. You'd be seeing body after body after body coming out at Old Dominion campus. My question to you is, so far, it has not been a mass terrorist atrocity, but we can only get lucky for so long. Do you fear we're going to have a Boston Marathon bombing, a Fort Hood, God forbid, even a 9/11 happen? Is that your fear?
Yeah, I think whether it happens or doesn't, I think if we want to increase the chances, I've said this before when I called in, if you want to run into traffic, you might get by all these cars, and one day you're going to get hit, and we're really increasing those chances, and it's terrifying. Thank God, the grace of God yesterday, that did not happen. That would have been beyond tragic. And then, because I know what the response to that after, too, would have been. There would have been more escalation, and again, just keeps going up and up and up. And, yeah, I do fear that. I think it's a genuine fear, and I think we've gone farther than I would have liked at this point already, and I just wish they can find a way to de-escalate this a little bit and still keep, our pride and still keep, the world at somewhat, not going to that next level.
Jim, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. 617-266-6868. Okay, Jim says it's the inevitable blowback from war. Agree, disagree, and not that he's defending it. He's saying, look, you go to war, this is what's going to happen. And we weren't prepared. And so my question to you is, are you prepared? And do you fear there could be even worse terrorist attacks to come in the days and weeks ahead? 617-266-6868. George in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, George, and welcome.
Thanks for taking the call.
My pleasure, George.
Yeah, so DNI released a memo to last year, and basically, I followed, like everybody, I tried to be educated on this. I don't know. It's hard to know what to believe. But basically, the case is being made that, ISIS and Al-Qaeda basically merged together, and ISIS is basically looking for a mass casualty type of attack, and then Al-Qaeda is, I guess, determined to do another airline hit. So that was on the radar for 2025. I think with the escalation of the Iranian conflict or war, or however you want to phrase it, it's greater. So it's pretty scary stuff. And I was listening to another podcast I haven't had an opportunity. I've just been working straight, so I haven't had an opportunity to do a little research. But basically, the podcast I was listening to, and this is not like, InfoWars or anything like that. It's credible. I think you'd probably think it's, you would at least listen to it. It's not, because this stuff gets a little conspiracy pretty quick. But basically that the claim was made that, see something, say something. Remember, they put it all over.
Yes.
Yeah. That basically, if you start from Google and work to their website, to Homeland, basically it doesn't work. So you can.
How do you mean it doesn't work, George?
It doesn't work. It's like if you make a claim, you're like, hey, I saw this really suspicious person at the grocery store. The license for what it's worth. And basically she was saying that, you would have to call she's from Florida. You call your county, like your sheriff, and make a claim. But she's like, then they would refer you to the state of Florida. And then, their FEMA or emergency system, the way it's set up down there, basically would be like, they're set up for hurricanes and that type of thing. So they're not geared up to deal with.
I hear what you're saying. In other words, you see something, you say something, but nobody does anything, or there's no follow up or follow through. No, look, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I hate to say it, but I think you're right. And part of it is what you're talking about now: red tape, bureaucracy. We're just not serious as a country about this, this fifth column and this threat within our own borders. We're just not. A lot of it, you look at, here, where we are now, well, not you in New Hampshire, but me in Massachusetts, you're an Islamophobe to even mention that you could have a potential Islamic terrorist attack. They're acting like the Boston Marathon bombing never happened. I mean, this is what you're dealing with now. So they've deliberately blinded themselves to what's happening, even in our own cities, even here. And I think we're going to pay a tremendous price. I think there's no question. I hope not. I pray not. I don't want anything to happen. No, and look, if you say, look here, let me be brutally honest with you. My fear now, if you can imagine this, but it's true, I'm worried about that student who stabbed that is ISIS terrorist at Old Dominion University in that classroom, who stabbed him to death, because I'm thinking, is he going to get sued? Is CARE or some organization or Spanberger, she's a crazy Democrat, is someone in her administration going to say you used excessive force? You shouldn't have stabbed this guy who was butchering and gunning down people in a classroom. Like, why did you have a knife in the classroom? You shouldn't have brought a knife in the classroom. This is the world that we live in. So if you try, what they did to poor Jason Penny, I'll never forget that. So, you, even if you're a hero, and this guy was clearly a hero, with the world that we live in, with these woke DEI pro-Islamist Democrats, is it Richard Penny? I'm sorry if look it up. I'm sorry. I for some reason I have, okay. Whatever. Penny is his last name. If I mangled his first name, if I got it wrong, forgive me. But my point is, that's the world now that we live in. I'm reading this story, multiple stories, in fact, how this guy came in, yelled out, Allahu Akbar, gunned this wonderful man, an instructor, an ROTC instructor, and badly wounded two other students. You were talking, there would have been dozens dead. It would have been I'm sorry, what, Mike? Yeah, Daniel Penny, that's right. Yeah, Daniel Penny. Daniel Penny. You would have seen dozens dead. Okay? You're looking at a massive body count. And as I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh no. Are they going to go after that the poor student with the knife? Are they going to prosecute him? Are they going to make his life miserable? Are they going to... Because when you start hearing them, we're taking witnesses, we're talking to people, and I'm like, and then the governor's involved and her people are involved. And I'm like, oh no. Did you really have to knife him? Because apparently there were 4 or 5 people that took him to the ground. Well, was he not subdued at that time? If he was subdued, wasn't using the knife excessive force? That's the world that we live in. I don't know what else to tell you. And that puts us all in danger. That cadet is a hero, an absolute hero. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, 8 o'clock, you know what that means. Kuhner's call log, caller of the week.
It's time for Kuhner's Call Log, where we showcase our favorite caller from the week.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Thanks for holding, Mike.
Well, I'll be even better, hopefully, before the winter flakes start to fall, because I'll be out of this hellhole and off to someplace warmer and red. I'm 57 years old, born in this place, lived here for my entire life. I'm in the oil industry. Going through a rather bad divorce. My soon-to-be ex-wife is going to make me sell a house I inherited from my father. I'm going to walk away with maybe $80,000 to $100,000. With $80,000 to $100,000, what do you get in Massachusetts? Absolutely a shoebox. You get nothing. You cannot survive here. You know what I get in beautiful Cape Coral, Florida? 2-bedroom, 2-bath with a lanai looking over a canal, 2nd floor, $110,000. Isn't it beautiful to go to a red state? Get the hell out of here. Get away from these politics. I'm taking my taxes. I'm taking my money. I'm getting away from these people that are rude and disgusting up here. Going down to the south where people have respect and manners. And I can't wait to get out of here. I do not want to spend another winter here. It's horrible what is happening to these towns because of Mara, the communist Healy, and her policies of bringing in illegals and caring about them over the taxpayers and the people of Massachusetts. People of Massachusetts, smarten up, leave. New Hampshire's not that far away. Get out. Leave here. There's nothing for you.
And next week, it could be you on Kuhner's Call Log.
Please, don't be a stranger. Call again. Callers have been, again, just absolutely awesome this week. Superb. Again, you make this show very, very special. 617-266-6868 is the number. This is from Mark on Messenger. And I think he's completely right. Completely. Not 100, 1,000% correct. Jeff, please, this must be said right now, and so I hope Trump's people are listening. We need ICE to start tracking down these radical Islamic terrorists that Joe Biden let into our country. And furthermore, you can call me Islamophobic, call me a racist, call me whatever you want. I don't give a rat's behind. Donald Trump should ban all Muslims from entering the United States from here on out. And one more thing, Jeff, and may God forgive me, but this is how a terrorist needs to be eliminated. By the hands of the people he terrorized. Not by suicide or police. Because they need to know what suffering feels like. You know, Mark, I'm with you. Contrary to, already liberals are, oh my God, was it excessive force? Did they? Well, then they must have subdued him. And if they did, why was the knife pulled? And I'm like, good. Seriously, good. I hope they beat him. I hope they choked him. I hope, yes, they stabbed him. Good. Good. That's exactly how you're supposed to do it. In other words, don't make it, painless. No. You're under attack. You do whatever you have to do to not only save your life, but everybody around you. And the moment a terrorist comes in and yells, Allahu Akbar, all bets are off. And yeah, it's better if the victims can grab him and tear the guy limb from limb. I'm serious. In other words, you let them know you may die, but man, you're going to die a painful death. Now, I want you to listen. This is the FBI special agent in charge of the FBI's Norfolk field office. Old Dominion University is in Norfolk. Her name is Dominique Evans. And this is what Dominique said about that Old Dominion ISIS terrorist. Roll cut 3, Mike.
How was he deceased?
There were students who were in that room that subdued him and rendered him no longer alive. I don't know how else to say it, but they basically were able to terminate the threat.
So he was not shot?
He was not shot.
He shot 3 people?
Correct. We have information that he shot 3 people.
The one that went to Virginia.
I mean, yeah, good. Not that 3 people were shot. Please don't. I meant good that they terminated him. Yeah, good. And they're like, well, what do you mean? Like he wasn't shot? No. Apparently they overpowered him. And these are brave warriors. I'm telling you, I'm so proud of them. I mean, it's a horrible, horrendous situation. Please don't misunderstand me. But man, they didn't cower. They didn't hide under the desk. They didn't, quote, shelter in place. They saw that their instructor had been murdered in cold blood. They saw 2 of their fellow, brothers and sisters down, wounded. One, by the way, is in very serious critical condition. And they said, let's roll. We'll take them down ourselves. And they just overpowered the guy. I mean, they just took their life in their hands. They said, screw it. And so apparently they grabbed him, they subdued him, they beat him, they just kept beating him and beating him and beating him. And luckily one guy had a knife on him, God bless him. And he just kept stabbing and stabbing and stabbing. Good. Good, yes, good. And I'm telling you, I'm warning the Democrats on this one. I'm warning you. Don't even think of prosecuting. Get that sick, perverse idea out of your mind. Okay? Go and hold a rally on behalf of the Ayatollah. Okay? Do something. Go out there and wave the Iranian Islamic Republic flag like you guys did for Mamdani over the weekend and say now Iran's missiles will fly. Okay? Do that. Don't go after them. You're going to get the mother of all backlashes. I'm telling you, leave those brave cadets alone. I'm serious. Don't even think about it. We're drawing a red line. You're not going to tell us we can't defend ourselves. And I don't care if he was subdued or not subdued before the stabbing began. I don't care. And neither does the country. You come into a college campus or anywhere. By the way, convicted 11 years in prison for providing material support to ISIS, an admitted ISIS terrorist. And Joe Biden lets him out. And you don't deport him, and you don't denaturalize him. After he's told you repeatedly he fantasizes committing a mass shooting, by the way, during Ramadan. That's how sick this guy is. Why during Ramadan? Because that's more glory to Allah. You don't just kill an infidel during the year. You have to kill him in the holiest month of the year. I don't know, maybe they give you a couple of extra virgins for that when you go up and meet Allah. In paradise, as they say, in paradise. The moment this guy walked in there with that gun and started shooting, I don't care what they do to him. He's got everything coming to him. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Okay. 2, not 1. 2 Islamic terrorist attacks. 1 in Old Dominion University. Claims the life of Lieutenant Colonel Brandon Shaw, a hero, served 3 deployments in Iraq, a professor at Old Dominion University, beloved by his students and cadets, shot, gunned down. And a synagogue in Michigan rammed with a vehicle loaded with explosives. Okay, 2 more terrorist attacks yesterday. New York City over the weekend, and then in Austin, Texas about a week and a half ago. That is 4 now since the war with Iran began. And so my question to you, it is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. The recent terror attacks in the United States were caused by A, anti-Semitism, B, radical Islam. Do you think these latest terrorist attacks on our soil were caused by A, Jew hatred, anti-Semitism, B, radical Islam? To me, I'm a B. I'm not saying I'm sure. Well, the synagogue attack was clearly anti-Semitic as well, no question. And I bet, all of these terrorists, the guy who shot up the ROTC classroom, I'm sure he's no big fan of Israel and the Jews. I guarantee you that. But you're asking me what do I think has been the primary motive? I think it's radical Islam. Anti-Semitism is there, no question. But I think it's, personally, I think it's clearly radical Islam. I think there's no question. But that's me. I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER. You can also vote via X. And again, yes, the Kuhner Man, I was active on X last night. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, KUHNER. Dan in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. Listen, Jeff, people got to realize even Israel News reported that demonic warmonger Netanyahu funded Hamas. Israel's Bibi is displacing Muslims out of the Middle East to England, to Germany, to France, to the U.S. Jeff, this is a question for all your listeners. Where in the U.S. Constitution does it say American taxpayers are obligated to fund foreign nations, provide military aid, or assist in nation building? You know, and keep in mind, well over $8 trillion in the Middle East we've spent. Okay? And even President General George Washington warned about and against allegiances with foreign allies and entanglements. Now, keep in mind, Trump and well over 80% of the U.S. Senate and Congress are funded and beholden to dirty foreign national lobbyist money from Israel through AIPAC, the dirtiest of PACs, because it funds dirty, corrupt politicians destroying our country from within on both sides of the aisle. So where are the Doge audits, spending cuts? Where is the funding to finish our border wall? We can arrest Maduro in Venezuela, but we can't arrest dirty, corrupt politicians that are stealing theft of USAID taxpayer money.
Well, I mean, you're throwing a lot in there, Dan. Look, I'm against this war. You know that. I said it for many reasons. But, you know, look, what I don't like, does Israel have a powerful lobby in the United States? No question. Okay, no question. But this blame Israel for everything, I'm sorry, I don't buy it. The Saudis have a very powerful lobby. You know that. The Gulf nations, the Gulf states, have a very powerful lobby. Now, not just that, you know, you're saying, well, Netanyahu is sending them to Britain. Netanyahu is sending them to France. I don't know if it's Netanyahu. I'll tell you this. Keir Starmer is letting them in. Macron is letting them in. You know, the Chancellor of Germany, you know, he's letting them in. So Biden let him in. Obama let him in. You know, Obama was no friend of Israel. I mean, he was the one who wanted to nuke up the Ayatollahs. He was the one that couldn't stand Israel and Bibi Netanyahu and was waging essentially a covert war against Bibi. And he let in millions of Muslim migrants. Millions. So what I'm saying is, Dan, look, our problem is globalism in general. The globalists want to destroy us from within. And how do the globalists want to do this? By flooding our country with third world illegal aliens from failed states and through massive Muslim migration. And look, to give the devil his due, it's succeeding. And look here, again, I don't want to beat a dead horse. We're 25 years, okay, almost. A couple more months, it'll be September 11. We're 25 years away from the 9/11 Islamic terrorist attacks. Saudi Arabia, 15 of the 19 hijackers were Saudis. Saudi intelligence was deeply involved in that attack. The House of Saud funded many of the madrasas that produced these terrorists. They haven't declassified any of the 9/11 files. Okay, as I was trying to say before Mike cut me off, and that's like his, you know, he's, how do I say this? That's like his dream. Every time he does it, it's like a dream come true for Mike. If he doesn't cut me off once a show, he's just not a happy man. So, we have a mayor in New York City who is a radical Islamist who openly calls for globalizing the Intifada and calls for Sharia law to be implemented in the United States. Okay, an anti-Semitic, anti-American Jew hater who sympathizes with some of the worst Muslim terrorist groups in the world. I don't know what else to tell you. That's, you know, and what are we now, 4 or 5 months away, whatever it is, from the, you know, September 11, the 25th anniversary. So things have changed. And a lot of it is they have allowed millions and millions and millions of Muslims to come in, Muslim migrants, especially from these third world failed states. And many of them have been naturalized, and look how they pay us back. And to me, this is the part that is very disturbing and just mind-blowing. You look at those New York City bombers as an example. They came from very privileged families. What I mean is they came in poor, but both families did financially extremely well. Hell, one of them was living in a $2.5 million mansion in the suburbs of Philadelphia with a fleet of SUVs in the driveway. The other one lived in a nice upper middle class $650,000 home. Everybody said his parents were well off. He had everything. So what I'm saying is, even when you welcome them in, even when you naturalize them, even when you give them not just all the rights and privileges of an American, but they're achieving the American dream. They're multimillionaires. And they still end up throwing IEDs. Now, I don't know. I'm sorry. You're just not willing to assimilate. That's it. I don't want to hear it anymore. Racism, Islamophobia, stop it. The problem's not us. The problem is you. And stay in the East. Look, my philosophy is let the West be the West. Let the East be the East. You're not going to change them. Their mentality goes back thousands of years. And every Muslim society going back 1,500 years has always been at war with non-Muslims or with its neighbors. So this is something that we've been dealing with now for the last 1,500 years. It's not going to end. So what you're doing is you're importing jihadism, whether you know it or not. That's what you're importing, and that's what we're now getting. Now, one of the big enemies that we face is not just the globalist regime, but the corrupt, lying, fake news media, who now, I'm telling you, are nothing more than a mouthpiece for the globalists who want to destroy our country. They are propaganda outlets. Their job is to push misinformation, disinformation, not just to lie, but to deliberately manipulate and brainwash their viewers, the American people. Now, I want you to listen to this, okay? Here you have an Islamist who tries to blow up a synagogue and a school with over 100 children, a preschool, okay, pre-kindergarten, preschool. They're 3, 4 years old, for God's sake. The motive, it's there. He's retaliating for what Israel is doing in this war now with Iran by they're targeting Hezbollah in Beirut, greater Beirut. And apparently one of his or a couple of his family members were killed, including a sibling. So this guy says, to hell with it. You kill my sister in Beirut, I'm going to kill Americans here, Jews, American Jews, here in the outskirts of Detroit. And so he drives from Dearborn, and it's about 20 miles away. And by the way, how this guy got a gun, we don't know. He had mortars. Freaking mortars in his car, loaded with explosives. How do you get mortars? And he drives it through the freaking front doors. By the way, that's how they do it in the Middle East. Allah, Allah, Allah. And they just drive it into a compound or a building or whatever, and kaboom. And you've got hundreds dead. And this idiot goes through the doors. Allah, Allah, Allah. And it's like, it won't stop. Like, oh, okay. So now he's driving down the corridor until whatever, finally, he can't drive anymore. and he's got a gun, and he starts shooting. And luckily there were security guards that gunned him down. Now, the car caught fire. And that's why you saw all this smoke coming out of the synagogue and out of the preschool. We are lucky that thing didn't blow sky high. And that they were able to evacuate all of the staff, the children, the teachers. They got them the hell out of there. And the first responders were so quick on the scene, and they were able to douse the fire. So, no, this is not Afghanistan. It's not Iraq. It's not Gaza. It's not Beirut. It's not Iran. This is West Bloomfield, Michigan. So you have a Muslim terrorist committing an act of retaliation on behalf of the Ayatollahs and Iran in their war with us and Israel. Listen now, this is Katie Tour on MS Now. I want you to listen to this. No. You know who's responsible for the attack in Michigan? This is what she's telling the Bills in Sudbury, the Chris's in Gloucester. That's what they watch. They watch MS Now. And then they call this show and regurgitate the garbage they hear there. It's the Republicans. I swear to you. And it's not just the Republicans. Whatever you think about them. It's Tucker Carlson. It's the anti-Semites in the Republican Party. That's what this guy, that's what drove this guy to blow up the synagogue. No. It's not that he's an Islamic terrorist. No. Acting on behalf of the mullahs. No. In the name of Islam. No. You see, when they shout Allahu Akbar. No. That's the slogan for the Republican Party now, according to the media and the left. That's not a Muslim slogan. That's a Tucker Carlson Republican Party slogan. Roll cut 6, Mike.
Well, the Republican Party is having right now a real fight on its hands, has a real fight on its hands amid wings of the Republican Party that are extremely anti-Semitic or flirting with anti-Semitism. Yeah. And Republicans on the other side of the party who are saying, hold on, what are you doing? This is ripping us apart. Democrats are having a fight on that as well. But it's been pretty pronounced within the Republican Party.
Yeah, I think there's
Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson alone.
Yeah, there you go. By the way, Rashida Tlaib and Bernie and AOC and Ilhan Omar, and I could just keep going. No, those are Jew lovers. Oh, my God. Oh, how much they love Jews. It's unbelievable. The Democratic Party, it's so pro-Israel, so pro-Jewish. Really, I know. Of course. Listen now, this is Abby Phillips on CNN. You know what? I'm going to play it on the other side. Now they're trying to claim those 2 ISIS New York City wannabe bombers. Remember, they took these IEDs and they threw them at a crowd at an anti-Islam rally. They're pro-Mamdani supporters who they took these IEDs, made these homemade bombs, and threw them at an anti-Islam rally crowd. But do you know what CNN is telling their listeners? Okay, I want you to listen to this. Now CNN was trying to claim that the 2 ISIS bombers that threw those homemade IEDs at an anti-Muslim crowd, No. They were trying to throw them at Gracie Mansion to kill Mamdani. You can't make this up. In fact, they were initially trying to say they were 2 white supremacists and that they showed up with these bombs to kill the Muslim mayor of New York. Listen to this. Who watches that dreck? Who the hell watches CNN? Roll cut 14, Mike.
two Republicans say Muslims don't belong here after an attempted terror attack against New York's Mayor Zohran Mamdani, and the House Speaker Mike Johnson says nothing really to condemn those comments. Another special guest is going to be with us at the table when we come.
You know, oh, how could you say they don't belong here? What are you talking? They just tried to throw bombs to kill Mamdani, to kill the Muslim mayor. The backlash was immense. They humiliated her, said you are so obviously lying, it's not even funny. And so first she apologized on social media on X, but many were saying that's not good enough. No. You want to, because, you know, who follows this woman on X? And they said, no, that's not good enough. You lied. In fact, you deliberately deceived and misled your viewers. Now tell your viewers that retract the statement. Tell your viewers, for once, the truth. And here is her this is Abby Phillips, having to retract the lie. Roll cut 14A, Mike.
This morning I issued a correction first thing in the morning on X for a mistake that I made in last night's show, but I also wanted to do so on air as well. I incorrectly said that the bombs that were thrown by ISIS-inspired suspects in New York over the weekend were directed at Mayor Mamdani. They were not. I failed to catch and correct that mistake in real time, and I take full responsibility for that. And while we do make mistakes, it is important to acknowledge and correct those errors when they happen.
You should lose your job over that. I'm being honest with you. If CNN was a half serious, half professional, or a news organization, to make a mistake that is this momentous and this deliberate and this grievous, okay? I mean, this serious, gone. I mean, just gone, out, gone. You don't belong in a newsroom, out. No. What happened was they tried to push a fake narrative. They were lying. They were deliberately lying. And this time they got caught, and they had to, you know, because, the blowback was so big and it was so embarrassing that they had to backtrack. But otherwise, if they could have gotten away with it, they would have gotten away with it, because that's what CNN does. They lie. It's why I call them no longer even the Clinton News Network, no longer even the Communist News Network. Now it's just the crap news network. 617-266-6868. Okay, very quick. Speaking of crap, listen now to this. ABC News. Again, it's all deliberate. Now ABC News is in hot water. Why? What did they do? Okay, listen now to this. They pushed a story very aggressively that there was an FBI bulletin that was sent to state and local law enforcement in California, in which, according to ABC News, the FBI now believes that the Iranians are going to strike the homeland. Well, how are the Iranians, our homeland, how are the Iranians going to strike the American homeland? Well, listen to this. That apparently there is a ship, an Iranian ship in the Pacific, 1,000 miles away, and they're going to send a swarm of drone strikes, drones. And it's going to be Pearl Harbor all over again. Except it won't be Hawaii. It's going to be California that's going to be hit. And so ABC News runs claiming, oh, the FBI sent this bulletin to local law enforcement, state law enforcement. Oh, my God. The Iranians are going to hit California with these drones. And it's going to be Pearl Harbor. Hundreds, thousands, God knows, 10,000s dead. Slaughtered, dead. San Francisco, L.A., San Jose, everybody's going to get hit. To the point that Gavin Newsom plays along. Gavin Newsom starts to act like this is actually true. And it's actually going to happen. That the Iranians have A, the capability, and B, apparently the intent, that they're going to be launching this apparent drone strike from the Pacific Ocean, and that California now is right there in their crosshairs. So, Gavin Newsom then, listen now to this, now says he's in a bunker. He's in a bunker because he's a war leader, because Newsom wants to run for president in 2028. And so he's aware of this information, and he's been working collaboratively with our state operations center and working with local law enforcement because, hey, this could happen at any moment. But I want you to know, I'm in control. I'm overseeing the security of California. We're not going to let these drones strike. We're waiting for them, and we're going to take them down. I'm Gavin Newsom, and I'm running for president. Roll cut 21, Mike. Hold on, we're having a problem with the machine, Mike? All right, so he basically says that they're anticipating potential drone strikes, that they're aware of this highly confidential FBI information, this bulletin, and that he's there with the State Operations Center, the Commander-in-Chief, Gavin Newsom. And he wants everybody, Californians, to know, don't be fearful. I've got your back. We're watching, we're monitoring, and we're going to take it down.
As it relates to drone strikes, we've been aware of that information. We've been working collaboratively through the SOC, which we established right after the war began, the State Operations Center, working with the Office of Emergency Service, but also working locally to make sure we transmit any information that we have received, and we're aware of that, which has been reported, I think, by ABC7. We're aware of that information, and we transfer that information in real time to our local partners.
There you go. So everybody's aware, everybody's on high alert, because he's Commander-in-Chief Gavin Newsom, and he's somewhere in a bunker, and he's monitoring the situation because, hey, he's like the president now. He's protecting us from the mullahs. So listen now to Newsom. It's top of mind. These drone, oh my God, the fact that California can be hit in a potential Pearl Harbor 2.0, except this time not from fascist Japan, but from fascist Iran. He's FDR. He's there, and he's ready. Roll cut 21A. Mike.
The drone issues have been always top of mind, and we've assembled work groups specifically around those concerns. But that's all I'll share at the moment. I have nothing more insightful beyond just what's been reported and how we're transmitting what we know to our local partners, which is critical.
It's critical. I mean, I don't want to say more. I don't want to say, hey, oh, top secret. But hey, I listen, wink, wink. Oh, you're lucky you've got me as governor. And we're going to stop this. If I'm Superman, I'm going to put on my cape and we're going to stop this. Okay, there's only one problem. The whole thing, and I really wish I could say this on the air, but I can't. The whole thing is bull, you know what? Bravo Sierra. It's pure, unadulterated bull crap. What ABC News reported, in fact, to their credit, CBS News came out and literally shredded ABC. In fact, they mocked them. They said, this is such horrible, sloppy journalism, it's embarrassing. So here's what ABC did. They took one email from one source that was sent to someone else unverified. And in fact, it states, this is all unverified. We have a tip, one tip from some anonymous person who called in and said, you know, maybe the Iranians are going to hit us with drones. Like maybe they may hit California. Like, that's it. That's it. So they got one anonymous source, a tip, giving complete unverified information in one single email. That's it. This is no FBI bulletin. This is no FBI intelligence package where they're saying, oh my God, our analysts are looking at this. Oh, we got the ship. We've got the drones. Oh, they could hit California. I'm just telling you. They get thousands of tips every single day. The Martians are going to attack. I mean, you wouldn't believe the stuff that they get, okay? And they're like, yeah, it's unverified. You know, people are calling in and, you know, and whatever. You know, yeah, Jeff Kuhner is a freaking jihadi. Yeah. Okay, thanks for the call. And so one unverified email based off of one anonymous, uncorroborated tip. And by the way, the FBI then came out and said, this is garbage. We're telling you it's garbage. Now, ABC News still ran with it. And even worse, they didn't just run with it. The email itself says this is unverified, i.e. unproven, uncorroborated. Okay, there's no evidence. In other words, there's no evidence for this. It's pure speculation. They deliberately took unverified out. When they ran with their story, they deliberately omitted the word unverified. You know, when you show the email and you put it up on the screen, the part, the unverified, that part, they just took it out. They edited it out. They spliced it out. Caroline Leavitt reamed them out from the White House yesterday, saying ABC News should apologize. ABC News should retract the story. They should take down the post. And as she put it, and she's completely right, completely, she said, you're doing deliberate disinformation with the sole intent of spreading fear and panic. You're trying to undermine the president and his war by making people believe that now you're going to see drone strikes, Iranian drones, pulverizing and massacring thousands of Americans in California and on the West Coast. Pure fear-mongering, pure panic-mongering. Simply to undermine the president in the hopes that he loses the war. That's journalism? And ABC News wonders why nobody takes them seriously? CNN wonders why everybody laughs at them? The fake news establishment media wonders why nobody watches them, nobody reads them? It's because of this. But last point, and then I want to go to the phones. Look at Gavin Newsom. Look at that snake. He knew it was bullcrap. He knew it was completely false. He knew it was unverified. Look at this guy doing the I'm in the bunker with the stupid security jacket on, and I'm talking to state and local police, state operations, we're monitoring this, I'm on top of it. It's theater. It's pure political theater. And he was trying to give the false impression to his own people, to the people of California, that the Iranians were on the verge of a Pearl Harbor with drones, and God knows how many Californians were going to be murdered and killed. This guy is sick. This guy is sick because he can play president in a bunker. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. 6-1, you know, I've said this before and I'll say it again. It's been said many times. In war, the first casualty is truth. And we are seeing it now on full display. 617-266-6868. Jimmy in Dorchester. Thanks for holding, Jimmy, and welcome.
What I got to tell you, Jeff, we got to pray for Sunday. You know why? In South Boston, they're going to have 1 million people for the St. Patrick's Day parade. I just hope something does not happen. I'm praying to God, and all the people should pray. I'm just hoping nothing happens. And if something does happen, I'm going to blame Obama, Mayorkas, Biden, the mayor of Boston, and the governor of Boston, because they let in all kinds of people that weren't even vetted correctly through that border, and they've got them living in this state. Remember you were saying that we had the marathon, we had 9/11 where all these terrorists came here? Well, I worry because this state is known for harboring them.
Jimmy, I'm very happy you mentioned that because I was thinking the exact same thing. St. Patty's Day is going to be next week. The big parade is going to be on Sunday. I hope to God they have a ton of security out there. And they better be vigilant. Because if something happens, Michelle Wu has let them in, Healy has let them in, there's going to be hell to pay. And to everybody out there, if you plan on going to the St. Patty's Day parade, please be extra, extra, extra vigilant. Be aware of your surroundings at all times. Because they'd love nothing more than to strike Boston again. Jimmy, I've got to ask you, do you think we've seen the last of it? Have they basically, Iran is activating their sleeper cells. You're seeing now these terrorist attacks. Have they fired their last bolt? Or do you fear now that there could be more terrorist attacks to come in the days and weeks ahead?
Worried about Trump going to China. I don't trust China. If he's going at some other place instead of going directly to China, because I'm worried about the 600 CDL licenses were given to Chinese soldiers that came into this country and they're driving trucks.
That's a very good point. Also, to be honest, we're in the middle of a war. Until the war is over, Trump can do whatever he wants, obviously, but my strong for his safety and even the public perception, you're the commander-in-chief, we're in the middle of a war. I would not leave the United States. I wouldn't do a foreign trip. I wouldn't do a foreign junket. You want to, you can postpone it or whatever, do it after, but not now, not in the middle of a war. For how it looks politically to the public, but to me, even more importantly, for his personal security. Because the mullahs have put a bounty on Trump's head. And look, let's, just to be factual, to be objective about it. The current Ayatollah, the son, Moshtaba Khamenei, in the strikes, we killed his father. Apparently, his wife has been killed. One of his children have been killed. His sister has been killed. And apparently he's been incapacitated. Now, there are rumors that apparently he may be facially disfigured, that they did considerable damage to his face. Others are saying he may even have lost his leg. My point is, the war has cost him his father, his wife, his child, his family, his sister, and maybe even disfigured him or cost him a leg. This guy's going to be itching for revenge and retribution. To me, this makes him even more wild, more dangerous. And God knows what he wants to do to get back at Trump. So that's why if I'm the president, don't leave the security of the White House. Don't leave the security of the United States. Because I'll tell you this, the Chinese won't have his back. Hell, the Chinese are one of Iran's biggest allies. So I'm with you, Jimmy. If I were President Trump, for now, during the war, stay home and have extra security because the Ayatollah is gunning for him. Jimmy, thank you for that call. 617-266-6868. Jerry on the Cape. Thanks for holding, Jerry, and welcome.
Comrade,
how are you?
Здравствует. Jeff, when Biden was in office, Maura Healey allowed planes to be flown into Otis with Islamists on them, and then they put them on buses and dispersed them all over the state, as well as people from other countries too. But there was quite a few Islamists that they brought in too. But Jeff, I want to touch base on Islam for a moment. The Prophet Muhammad, in his writings, is a self-admitted liar, thief, rapist, murderer, and pedophile. Those were written in his books, in the Quran. And furthermore, Jeff, the religion of peace, why is it that 43 times in the first 64 pages it speaks about killing the unbeliever? It's a political theocratic ideology. It's not a true religion.
Jerry, look, I've been saying this for years. Don't take my word for it. Read the Quran. And you tell me if that's a book of peace. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, America under attack. I just want to read to you a text that I got, which is politically very incorrect, but completely true. Completely and utterly true. This is from 781. You can text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. Jeff, Islam has been at war with the world since Muhammad first began his march of rape and murder some 1,400 years ago. Today, the West will always win kinetic battles with Islam. No one can beat our bombs, but Islam will always win the war against the West with these tried and true weapons. One, by the wombs of their women. In other words, population, demography. They just will outbreed everyone else. Two, by the West's suicidal, self-destructive immigration policies, which have ushered in tens of millions of Muslims into our fertile homelands. Three, by using our precious love of freedom as poisoned swords against us. Islam has screamed this from their mouths and mosques with ever-increasing volume, and murder and our suicidal and sweethearts roll over like puppies inviting the slaughter. In other words, they use our own freedoms against us. And then 781 ends with, and Jeff, let us never forget who has always been their man behind the scenes. Barack Hussein Obama. You know, we misunderstood Obama. I think if we're honest, and we should be honest, the dear leader, remember in 2008 when he said we are several weeks away from, this is before the election, from fundamentally transforming the United States, we thought he wanted socialism. Now, he did. Part of it was that. But what he really wanted was Islamo-socialism or Islamo-communism. What he wanted wasn't just for America to become more communized, but what he also wanted is us to become Islamicized, and for tens and tens of millions of Muslims to pour in and to destroy us from within. And that is exactly now what is slowly but surely taking place. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868 is the number. Nikki in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Nikki, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. God bless Jeff Kuhner, and God bless the United States of America.
Thank you, Nikki.
But I make occasional deliveries to the Walmart distribution center there right in Raymond, New Hampshire. And one of my last deliveries there was like, wow, you guys got quite an operation here. It's, all automated, the robot arms picking stuff and all that. And the guy that was, signing for the delivery that I was making, he's like, yeah, well, they just did like not too long ago, they just did a multi-million-dollar renovation to like they got like 3 different break rooms there. And I couldn't believe when I was hearing this. He says, yeah, they, in one of the break rooms, they've got foot baths and mats available for, the Muslims, the call to prayer. And I'm like, well, so did they do anything for maybe the Christians? Throw up a crucifix or something there? Oh no, but we're free to use the space. But it's all under the guise of quiet rooms. I just thought that was you don't see anybody walking around there that you would think would be doing the call to prayer. But yeah, they're accommodating them, foot baths and the mats there. It astounded me. It's Walmart. Remember back in the day, they were all, USA made and all that. Like, what would the original Sam Walton be saying about that?
Oh, he's rolling in his grave. Oh, Nikki, that's a great point. And look, I wish it was just Walmart, okay? I wish. Almost every university college campus now has a prayer room for Muslims. Increasingly, you're now seeing municipal buildings, mayor's offices around the whole country. They're installing prayer rooms for Muslims. The mayor of New York, the official office of the mayor's office now has a prayer room for Muslims. This is New York City. And remember, I'm just calling it the way I see it. New York City, in theory, one of the most secular, liberal cities in the world. These are all these moonbats that run, that live there and vote there. Separation of church and state, right? You don't get more pro-abortion, more pro-feminist, more pro-transgenderism, more pro-gay rights than New York. But there's no separation of state and mosque. So they've got prayer rooms. They can wash their feet. This is in the mayor's office. And by the way, and this is happening all over Western Europe. All over Western Europe. So this is now the only thing that's saving us is in terms of population. There's not as many here as there are in Western Europe. Their percentage is still relatively low compared to Western Europe. Joining us now, as she always does at this time, she is the co-founder, CEO, and president of Kelly Financial Services. And yes, that is her wonderful name, Kelly. Kelly, how are you?
Good morning, Jeff. I am good. We've been talking about what the One Big Beautiful Bill could mean for retirees and what it might mean beyond the headlines. Yes, there are some new deductions and changes that could benefit seniors, but here's what really matters. Policies and laws will always evolve. Your retirement plan should be designed to adapt. That's why we created our complimentary investor guide, Unlock Your Tax Savings. It walks through what's changed, what may expire, and how these updates could affect income, legacy plans, and long-term care strategies, all in plain English. Because retirement planning isn't just about taxes. It's about protecting the life you've worked so hard to build and the people you care about most. To request your complimentary copy, simply give us a call or email kelly@kellyfinancial.org. Jeff, I'll continue this conversation tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on Safe Money Strategies Radio. Do tune in or visit our website for the Radio Rewind. Jeff, have a wonderful weekend. My best to Grace and the kiddos.
Thank you, Kelly. All the best to you and everyone at Kelly Financial. To get a free copy of that guide, and I urge all of you, if you can, do get it. Call now, 888-800-1881, 888-800-1881, or you can actually email Kelly herself personally, kelly@kellyfinancial.org. That's Kelly at kellyfinancial.org. Okay, my friends, let me just read one more text message. I promise I want to go back to the phone lines. 617-266-6868 is the number. And just it's from 508. And again, just makes such an excellent point. Jeff, to put an exclamation point to your caller from George, it was George from New Hampshire, the way we treat Islamic terrorists in our own country. Just listen to this. Jeff, the convicted terrorist murderer Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, the surviving brother of the Boston Marathon bombing, has his cable TV, his Netflix, his halal meals, his prayer mat, and his life. We can't even manage to execute him. And we think we are going to defeat Islam here at home? Not a chance. You know, when you put it that way, no, really, I don't want to seem like a Debbie Downer, but I'm like, how can I disagree with that? A premeditated act of Islamic terrorism. I mean, my God, it wasn't just 3 dead. It's the people that were maimed and crippled. One of the most heinous terrorist attacks in American history. And you've got liberal judges now saying there's no way they're going to allow him to be executed. And it's true. Everything is true. He's got cable TV. He's got Netflix. He's got access to a computer. He's got his halal meals. He's got his prayer mat. He's got his Quran. I don't know what else to tell you. Now, you tell me if Christians and Jews, never mind terrorists in any Muslim country, are treated as well as convicted Islamic terrorists are treated here. 617-266-6868. John in Lowell. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Jeff, it amazes me why everyone's been so surprised that there are terrorist cells here. It was reported on 10, 15 years ago where there was an actual map showing where they are. So, Jeff, why haven't they been taken out of the country starting then? And Trump said the other day, too. See, Jeff, I'm starting not to trust anybody. He said the other day, we're aware of them. We know who they are, and we know where they are. So, Jeff, why are we hearing about arrests and roundups? And don't tell me because it's happening behind the scenes and they don't want you to know. Because if they were doing that, he would want you to know. Think about it, Jeff, and try not to give me a standard cookie-cutter answer. What the hell is going on?
John, no, really, I really, honestly, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you're making an extremely good point. I mean, I remember I heard that comment. I'm going to be frank. And I remember saying, okay, so why aren't you arresting him? Like, why aren't you taking him down? Worried about what? Due process? Civil liberties? Like, are you kidding me? Like, we're in a war, man. And Americans are getting killed, both there and now here. Like, come on. This is not patty cake we're playing here. So, John, I got to tell you, I don't know. I really honestly don't know what to tell you. But we don't have the will anymore. As an historian, I'm just being honest with you. We had the will to beat the British, to win our independence. We had the will to win the Civil War. We had the will to beat the Nazis, to beat the Germans. We had the will to beat the Russians and the Soviets during the Cold War. But it's been about 30-some years now. There's like a spiritual malaise. There's no other way to put it, like a moral, cultural decay. We've just become so complacent. I'm not saying you, me, this audience, but in general, Americans, America. And I don't know. I mean, I I just shake my head and I say, I honestly don't know. It's like we're no longer a serious people anymore. And the one thing, you can say whatever you want about the Islamists, brutal, murderous, primitive that they are, barbaric, but they're deadly serious. They don't play around. We seem to be playing around. John, before you go, what's your theory? Why do you think Trump is refusing to go after these terrorist cells? What is he afraid of? Or what's the motive for him not making a move? John?
I'm here.
Oh, go ahead, John, please.
I can only come to one logical conclusion, Jeff. That he doesn't have a problem with it, that he wants it. And I hate to say it, Jeff, but we've been duped before. Look at what the heck. Are you kidding me? Jeff, and I know you won't say it, and that's fine. But I'll say it. I'm starting to think he's all for this stuff. And I'm starting to think he's no different than them. What have we gotten out of this, Jeff? Where are the arrests, Jeff? Where's everything we've been promised? It's all a bunch of bull crap, Jeff. Jeff, I stopped listening to the show for a while. Number one, because of my health, and I wanted, I was getting too stressed out. Stress isn't good with cancer. We all know that, Jeff. But Jeff, I hate to say it, but I have to say it. I started thinking more for myself, Jeff, without other people's opinions, and just sitting back and just looking at things differently, from different angles, without someone else shoving an opinion down my throat. And Jeff, I don't like what I'm coming up with. And I hate to say this, I'm not a braggart, you know that. I'm really
not
wrong.
At all. John, but I just to flush it out a little bit more, why would Trump, just on the terror cells, you said, well, he wants it. Why would he want it? Why does he want the terror cells? In other words, he wants the murders, the chaos, the attacks, the shootings. Why is that? Because what? It'll grow the power of the state? It'll give the administration even more power over our lives? Is that what this is about?
After 9/11, Jeff, I'm starting to think he's part of the New World Order. And I don't care what anyone says. We talked a long time ago, and I asked you, does anyone make it into the presidency without the powers behind the scenes approving it? And your answer was no. So what makes him any different, Jeff? We just think he's different.
Ah, you think it's just an act. He's just pretending to oppose him. But you're saying on the fundamentals, he's not touching them, correct?
Do you see him touching them?
Well, that's a very good point. That's a very, very good point. John, are you doing good? How's your cancer?
I still got the stage 4 lymphoma. I stopped taking their poison about 8 months ago. Started doing natural. The cancer in my lungs is gone. The lymphoma goes back and forth, up and down.
Okay, just very, very quickly, because I want to go back to the phone lines. So the new supreme leader, the son of the late Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, well, this is Moshtaba Khamenei, has now issued his first public statement since being elevated to the position of the supreme leader. And he's even more radical, and I think even more dangerous, frankly, and more crazy than his father. So he is calling for no surrender in this war. He will not negotiate with Trump. He says under no conditions. He is calling for a holy war, as I've said, against Trump, against the United States. He wants to continue attacks on American bases, but he mentioned the fact that much of his family was killed. His father, his wife, a child of his sister, and he says that there will be revenge and retribution, and that there will be no stopping until there is revenge and retribution. And in particular, he now says that the key battle, the flashpoint now, is to block the Strait of Hormuz. That Iran will now do everything in its power to keep laying mine after mine after mine in order to block the Strait of Hormuz and to prevent oil from these Persian Gulf countries from being able to get out to the world, especially to Asia, Europe, and to drive up oil to $150 or $200 a barrel. thereby triggering a global recession, and they hope to tank the American economy in time for the midterms. So, in plain English, we have someone now in power in Iran that is even more strident, more defiant, even more hardline than the previous leader. And he says they're willing to take as much punishment as Israel and the United States is willing to dish out. So at least from the regime in Iran, this is now a fight to the death. Tom in Ohio. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Jeff, listening to your last caller, John, pray that he knocks his cancer, and it sounds like it. But boy, oh boy, if he's anywhere close to what he said about Trump being a fellow traveler and part of the New World Order, we're cooked. I just, when he said that, I started thinking about it. I'm like, God Almighty, if he is in bed with them, like, you know, like the dear leader, there's just, where's an exit ramp for us, Jeff?
Well, Tom, I mean, look, you know, John has been a long-time caller, and I have a lot of respect for him. He's a veteran, and the poor man is battling cancer, and that's why I said, please keep calling and call me back, and I want to make sure that, you know, he fights and wins this battle against cancer. But, I mean, think about it. If he was a fellow traveler, if he was in on the game, why would they try to murder him, assassinate him, arrest him, destroy him, ruin his family? So, no, I think they do view him as a very serious threat. My honest opinion is I think Trump is trying to do everything he can. There are just so many forces arrayed against him. I think what we've misunderstood or underestimated is just the strength, the tenacity, and how deeply entrenched the swamp and the deep state is. It's very hard. So even a force of nature like Trump is practically blocked at every turn. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's how I read the evidence. Because, you know, if he was truly one of them playing a game, they wouldn't have tried to murder him, they wouldn't have tried to bankrupt him, and they certainly wouldn't have tried to imprison him. And by the way, I don't think he's in the clear. If you want my honest opinion, I think the Democrats, if they win the midterms, are going to impeach him, and if they win the Senate, they're going to convict him. And that's what they want to be his defining legacy, that he was not just the first, you know, not just that he was impeached, but he'll be the first president to ever be convicted and then thrown out of office. And once he's thrown out of office, then they're going to put him in jail. They're going to put him and his family in jail for the rest of their lives. So that's why I keep telling the president, you've got to focus on domestic issues. You have to win the midterms. You don't win the midterms. Forget politically that he's in big trouble. Personally, I think he's in big trouble. But anyway, I don't want to digress. Tom, please go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yeah, Jeff. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, Trump is a salmon swimming upstream. I mean, he really is. And when I listen to this, you know, your show this morning, I kind of couch it, Jeff, as it's called suicidal empathy. You know, we as a society, we as Americans, we have a ton of moral fiber. It's part of our being. And empathy is something I think we as Americans, you know, we showcase it. You know, it's not that we feel sorry for people. We try to put ourselves in their shoes. And I think it's almost suicidal, we as a society, because of the fact that you've heard the phrase before, Jeff, this is not who we are. Well, I don't even know what we are or who we are. We bring these travelers in. We look at all the Afghan refugees that came in when Biden pulled out. People hanging on wheels of airplanes, in the planes. How many of those people were vetted? Jeff, do you remember when during the border crossing, I think it was the height of the border crossing during Biden, there was a CBS reporter at the border, maybe in Del Rio or somewhere, and a Muslim guy, probably in his late early 30s, walked across And the reporter went up to him, and he interviewed him, and he asked him a question about, why are you here? And the guy said, you will hear about me, and just kept walking. Now, if that didn't bring a chill up your spine, it sure did with me. There's no way. You asked the question to John, why isn't Trump willing to go after him? I'll tell you why. He doesn't want the repercussions.
Oh, and not only that, yes. Yeah, and by the way, I do remember that. When he said, you don't know my name, but soon you will. Basically saying, he's a terrorist. I don't think they really know where they all are.